Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I'm Brandis Daniel.
What's up, great girlfriends?
Hey, great girlfriends.
I should be saying happy holidays. Happy holidays. I know.
You know, say that again, Sybil.
Okay.
You know how the woman in the crowd be like, happy holidays.
Right, somebody always being extra. Who is the soloist?
On the ad-lib.
Right. Happy day. That's so funny. Happy holidays, great girlfriends.
Happy holidays.
Oh my gosh. 'Tis the season, right? Fa la 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 la.
Yes.
Let me see how festive your holiday has been. I'm just diving right into Brandis' Instagram. I'm going to go at Brandis Daniel. Okay, looks like you have been to a couple of holiday soirees. I see you, Brandis. I see you.
Well, I was there with you, ma'am.
I see you posting. I see you, girl.
I got one more to post. I got to post my Christmas decorations. I'm waiting to get my tree up, though.
Wait a minute. This is inappropriately late. Okay?
It is not late.
Okay, so are you doing fake tree or real tree?
Real tree.
You got to be kidding me. So the tree is wilting somewhere?
No, it's not wilting.
Okay, all right.
Wait, so Sybil, I'm on your Instagram now, which is Sybil_Amuti, A-M-U-T-I. And this little picture of Sam is too adorable. I remember this Sam.
I know.
Oh, gosh,
my little
Sam.
squeezable Sam when he had fat rolls and stuff.
Yes, and celebrating Crystal's birthday party, which looks like it was so amazing.
Oh yeah, Crystal's birthday was fantastic. So this week we're diving right back into our What Women Want conference panels from the 2016 conference that was in June, powered by Prudential. So last week's podcast was focused on self-care, featuring Dorinda Walker, Nitika Chopra, and Ty Alexander from Gorgeous and Gray. And I love that panel. I thought it was amazing. I loved all the nuggets I pulled away.
It was so good. You're there at the conference and you're like, oh my God, this panel is incredible. And then you hear it again because I'm listening to the podcast too. And I was like, dang, that really was amazing content.
Yes, I know. It was so good. It was so good. And so this week, the Living Richer panel, we had guest speakers, Abby Antigua, who's the creative director of Latina Magazine, and Tiffany the Budgetnista Aliche, who is the founder of the Dreamcatchers Academy, I can now say, in the Living Richer Challenge that so many of you, I think it's over 200,000 women from around the world that have participated in her challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, but you all know her by the Budgetnista. So we want you to dive right in, but don't dive without grabbing your pen and paper. You know the rules. Get your pen and paper.
So they also need pen and paper for our workbook.
Yes.
2017 workbook. So many of our great girlfriends have already purchased your workbook, your Ready, Set, Go workbook for 2017. And we still, you can definitely check them out. You can download them. We had one of our great girlfriends who printed the whole thing out and put it in a binder, and it looked so amazing.
I know. I thought that was awesome.
But it's a great tool for you guys to use as you're getting together with your friends and you guys are talking about 2017 and planning and writing out your goals and reflecting on this year is the perfect tool. So make sure you get your workbook.
Absolutely. Oh, and secondly, log on to thegreatgirlfriends.com. Look up the information for What Women Want 2017. We promise you it's going to be amazing. We promise you some amazing speakers and great experiences. And we promise you that the event will sell out, as all of our events have done, thank God. So
yes.
Get your ticket, get your best friend's ticket, and make sure you start planning to join us in New York. All right, so dive right into this week's episode and enjoy. Okay, so we are truly excited for our second panel, Living Richer, with the amazing Tiffany the Budgetnista Aliche, financial empowerment teacher, educator, and I love her because she built from the ground up at a fantastic enterprise. And she is just a force to be reckoned with, so we're very honored to have you here today, Tiffany. Thank you. Thank you. And Miss Abby Antigua, who's the creative director of Latina Magazine. To know her is to understand how she has managed to be such a force in the fashion industry, how she's managed to really create a look and feel aesthetic for Latina Magazine that makes them a competitor in the industry. Abby is just a fireball, y'all, a complete fireball, a love button. We had her on the podcast, I think 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And she tells all. So this specific panel is about living richer. How do we go into abundant life? Now we know how to love ourselves. How do we create abundance right where we are? Not about money, but how do we have that abundance, that internal abundance that Michelle talked about, that our self-love panelists talked about, that now Tiffany and Abby are going to dive into? And then how do we create accountability in our relationships that allows for the financial part to take place? And Tiffany has done, I mean, when I say she set the nation on fire with her Live Richer Challenge, she's got people around, how many people, just so I know the number?
160,000.
Just 160,000 people. No, I mean, she just went ahead and pulled them together and said, let's teach and learn and empower each other around financial education and literacy. And she was the pioneer to do it. So you have them in the room with you. Let's welcome them today. Hey, y'all. Hey. What does living richer mean?
Living richer for me is living life to the fullest. From my experiences in life, and I had mentioned that in the podcast, losing my dad, losing my best friend, and losing my sister-in-law all in year by year made me realize that I have the way to live my life is accepting myself and doing the best in my job and my career and taking time for myself. Having a glass of wine, sit, read a book, that's richer for me. That's how I live my life.
Awesome. I love it.
So to me, living richer is to purposefully and passionately pursue your ideal life. Meaning, one, you have to figure out what do you want your life to look like, not what your mom said, not what your best friend is telling you to do, not what your boo is telling you. So what is your ideal life? And to pursue it with purpose and passion. So that's really, it's more than money. The richness might throw you off and you think like it's about money. It's really not. It's about, if you want to be a teacher and you're a teacher and you love it, then you're living richer. If you want to start a home-based business and you're doing that and you're loving it, you're not making $1 million a year, but you're still loving it, then you're living richer. It's really about looking deep within yourself, figuring out why you're here, what you're supposed to be doing in life, and doing just that, happily.
People talk about purpose and passion a lot, though, Tiffany. And sometimes people are like, well, how do I even get there? How do I get to a place where I first know what my even passion is sometimes, and then how do I know what my purpose is? And even if I know, like, what is my first step? I have there are people who have no idea, and they're trying to figure out, like, right? There was a young lady over there who had said, like, how do I take the first step?
So your purpose is not something that you have to figure out. It's something that's already there, right? You have to just remember. Because think about when you were little, you ever see a little kid play? It could be with like a stick and a rock. And they just having the time of my life, right? But we forget, we don't enjoy those simple things, but your purpose is something that you're already doing. People come to you for already. You don't even know you're consciously doing it. Like anybody who meets me, like I'm just like a chatterbox. It's because it took me a while to realize that I am a teacher. Like whether I was a preschool teacher, and I was a Sunday school teacher. I was the know-it-all in my house at home. You can't, because I teach personal finance, people will see me at the grocery store and ask me questions. I'll keep you there for half an hour and tell you to get a pen and paper out. Let's get started. We're gonna do your plan. Buy the cucumbers. And so I didn't realize, but I'm like, what should I do with my life? Hello, you are a teacher. And once you kind of stop trying to force it and figure out from the outside in, and you just allow yourself to just be yourself, it's already there. Are you always doing someone's hair? Are you always, babysitting somebody's kids? Are you always, reading or writing? It's already there. You just have to remember and take away all that clutter. So that's how you find your purpose. And your passion just comes, when's the last time that you felt true joy? Was it looking at your child like, oh, he is so beautiful? Was it that you watched something funny on TV and you had like a gut-wrenching laugh? So finding your passion is just really, what brings you joy day to day? And it really is a personal thing. Sometimes you just have to sit still quietly for a little while and just feel what's already there.
That's funny purpose. It's actually what we were just talking upstairs. It's like I never heard of burn the boat.
Yes.
You know, that was interesting. I've never heard of that. And what is it? Burn the boat. Can you explain? Because I learned from you.
So a friend of mine used to tell me all the time, well, Tiffany, you got to burn the boat.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah. I didn't know what he was talking about. Right? So then one day I looked it up, and burn the boat came from some like ancient like Roman story or Greek story where a group of sailors and their captain, they were going to invade another land, and he wanted to make sure that his sailors fought their hardest. And so when he got there, he instructed them to burn the boat. Because he said, now that we're here, you're either going to win or die.
Right.
And so when you burn the boat, you literally leave yourself no choice. Like, so burn the boat, for example, I hate this job, I want to do my own thing. You put your letter of resignation in. Now you have no job, and you're either going to win or die.
Burn the
right?
boat.
So when you burn the boat, and not literally, but
Right.
burn the boat just means you leave yourself no choice but to win.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we all have to burn the boat, because when you're sitting, when you give yourself like, well, I can maybe do this and I can maybe do that, then you never quite feel the sense of urgency. And I'll give you my biggest burn the boat. I was staying with my sister. I'd lost my job during the recession, and I couldn't afford my mortgage anymore. So I moved in with my parents for a little while, then I moved in with my sister. And I was staying with her. I was like 2 months, 3 months max. 9 months later, I was still on her couch in her living room. And she just came home one day, and I guess I was like, you know, people just come in just looking at you like, look at you. Just look at how you looking. Right? And I was like, uh-oh. And I knew this can't be good. And she was like, you got 30 days. And I was like, Chi-Chi, that's her nickname. And she was like, first of all, mommy and daddy got a house. You can always move back. You're not going to be homeless. You're not going to be hungry, but you're not going to be here. Right? And so 30 days, and I thought, I was so mad. I was like, she going to see one day I'm going to be rich and I'm going to leave her behind. Right? But that was burning the boat, because it took me 9 months, and I thought I was working. In those 30 days, I put in work, because I had no other choice. I got my first contract. I found an apartment. I did everything within those 30 days, because that boat was burned, and I had no other choice but to win. And so I thank her to this day. It took me a while to not be mad, but I thank her to this day, because had she not burned that boat for me, I might still be sleeping on her couch like, hey girl, I'm gonna make it. You gonna see.
How many of us need to burn a boat today?
Burn it.
Half of the room needs to burn boats today. So today is the day we burn our boats. I ain't calling no names, Tara. I'm just saying.
But you can't stay on my couch though.
Today is a great day to burn the boat, right? It's Saturday. We're all looking great. Let's
Yeah.
burn some boats
I
today.
had an experience of burning the boat. I left the magazine. I was working at Latina. I started Latina. I came back to Latina magazine. But at that time, I had a baby, and I was the first one to, be pregnant at Latina, and have the first child. So it was hard, because no one understood. I was the only one with a child, and so we would stay there late hours, and my baby was home with my dad and my mom, and it was hard for me. So I quit. I walked out. They hired me back, but I walked out, and I was like, no, I can't, and the reason why I walked out was when my daughter, Kelsey, at that time, she was 5 years old, and I came home, and I just want to cry, but she hid behind the sofa, and she didn't want to be with me. And so I was like, Kelsey, it's mommy, and she was like screaming, calling for daddy, because daddy's always there. Daddy works a normal job from 9 to 5. Mommy works from like 9 to midnight, and so for me it was hard. And when that happened that week, I didn't say anything to my husband. I went to work and I just quit. And it was the best thing in my life, because I bonded with her, because I felt I was going to lose her, and I didn't want to lose her. And so she came first, and it was the best thing, because after that I got experience. I worked in advertising, I did commercials, something totally different than graphic design and magazines. I had that experience. And then Latina called me back. So I think, God does things, for reasons. I always say that's my thing. God does it, he does it, and I'm waiting for that moment, and I just have to wait and see what he has for me, my path. So that was an amazing experience and an eye-opener for me.
It's so funny sometimes when you veer off the path that you think you're supposed to go on. That's when you pick up like all these amazing gems along the way, and you think they're random gems, but then you go back and you're able to use all those gems like for the next stage in your life. It was like God is packing your suitcase.
Every experience is essential. Everything seems so random, but it's not. Like, I'll give you an example. I went to school for business, and because I didn't know what to choose. My dad, I told him I want to get a degree in psychology. He was like, okay, if you pay for it. I said, okay, so we'll rethink that. I'm gonna get a degree. And so literally I was like, I guess business, because you're 19, 17, 18, you don't know. And then I was looking through like the list of things under business, and I said, you know what, marketing, I don't know, that seems easy. That's literally how I chose my college degree. And then I had a bunch of internships that I hated in business, and I always loved teaching and on campus. I used to teach at the daycare center. And then afterwards, I thought, you know what, instead of going into business, I want to be a teacher. And at the time, you have to have one now, but you had to have a certificate to be a teacher, obviously, but not to be a preschool teacher. So I said, I'll do that while I work on my certificate. And I did. So I got certified to teach older grades, and I ended up teaching preschool for 10 years and never moved on. Everyone thought it was so random. You went to school for business, you're teaching preschool. I went on to get my master's in education. I'll be a principal. Hated it, so I didn't. So instead, here I was with a preschool teacher with a master's. People thought that was like, you're wasting your life. Look at your life. Look at you. Look at you. Look at how you looking. Right? And
So funny.
and so then during the recession, like I knew I was supposed to leave teaching, but it just was so easy, and I loved it. The kids loved me, and I loved them. But God will whisper, you're supposed to leave, and you're like, what? La 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 la, right? A little wind will blow. You're like, A little sand, a rock, a brick, the house falls down. And so my house falling down was my school closed 3 days before the new school year during the recession. And I knew it was time for me to leave. And I ended up taking all of those random things that everyone told me that I was doing wrong. Teaching 10 years, preschool, master's in education, learning to write curriculum, business degree, marketing degree, to create the Budget NISA with what I do now. My father is an accountant. Well, he's retired now and has his master's in economics, so I learned money at home. So all of these things that seem so random has created a business that I'm able to hire people full time. And like I was just telling Mimi this yesterday, it's so crazy because now I'm running a business that takes care of not just me, but other people from these things that people told me were not, did not apply or I should not have done them. That if I had not been a preschool teacher, I could not teach financial education in a step-by-step, simple way. Because who's harder to teach than a 3-year-old? Right? Amen. Like, there's no point of reference. Like, oh, this is red like an apple. What's an apple? Well, we got to bring it on back. And so, when I teach financial education, I teach in a way that you have an understanding that, you might not know anything. So, I have to teach from a simple perspective, And I learned that from 10 years of teaching preschool. Has everybody heard of the 10,000 hour rule? Right? So, what that rule is this, that on average, it takes 10,000 hours to master your natural talent, right? So you've been cooking with grandma, you have a natural talent for cooking, you've been doing it since you're 6, by 16, you are a master cook. Serena Williams started playing tennis around 5, 6 years old. She had a natural affinity for athletics. By 16, she had won her first Grand Slam, a master tennis player, right? And so there's something that you already have a natural affinity to. After about 10 years of doing it, you become a master. So it's no coincidence that God took that job after year 10 teaching preschool students, right? It's like, you got your master's in teaching, Tiffany, and here you go. Now it's time to apply that to what you're really supposed to be doing.
Wow.
It all matters.
Let me tap into this a bit because, you talk about the plan for your life, and we go into that, and our parents tend to craft plans. I mean, they chart the course. All we got to do is just go fill in the blank, right? Just go and do it. And culturally speaking, from your background, there is a chart, there's a plan, there are certain degrees you're supposed to get. What's his name? I can't think, Classic Man.
Yes. That is so...
When he talked about where the other 2 points...
Word for word. Anybody Nigerian? Caribbean?
So, that pressure. And then
Good question.
culturally, for you, family is huge. Family is the foundation of everything. But a lot of times we forsake that because we want to chart this. You know, our a lot of times, we forsake what we know we want in exchange for what's culturally sound for us. So we don't quite get the abundance of our life that we should see. And I love how you take a pivot, and you turned all of the things. Yes, the education that your father instilled in you from very early when you got that bike when you were younger, and you went and became an educator, and you had to take a pivot in terms of putting your family first. Talk to me for a second on how do you make that big choice when everything else is saying put the career first, but your heart was saying my rich life starts here at home with the foundation with my family. How do you do that?
I pray a lot. I really pray a lot. Just like 2 days ago, I don't know, I think I was talking, I talk to everybody. I tell them all my issues. I think that's a good thing to do. I just let it all hang. Let me tell you, let's do it. But I do pray. And the other night, I just, out of frustration, I cried. You have to cry. You know, I just cried and cried. My poor husband was sleeping. Of course, he's snoring. So I'm like, he's not going to hear me. But I say, you know, from that experience with my daughter, that I realized, and my experience in life, like losing a lot of close people in my life that I love, I realized that family is first. And so, and of course, you know, you have to have a career and to feed your family, you know. But I put family first. And it's, for me, that's important. And when I put family first, it gives me confidence. And when I'm confident, then I do 100% at work. And love comes in your family. You know, you have to have a stable home and a family that supports you. And when you don't have that, everything just deteriorates. So for me, foundation, family first, and at home, have a loving family and work your issues out. And then from there, you're going to be successful. You're going to have your career. Because then you say, hey, you know what? My family's okay. My kids are okay. My husband's okay. They're taken care of. Now I can focus on my career. And I am blessed. You know, my husband, 100% this morning, he woke up early. He wakes up every day, 5 in the morning. For my daughter, she started high school, and, you know, he makes coffee. He brings it upstairs and puts it, and I'm like, thank you, God. And I say, you know, thank you, Ken. You know, I always thank him. You know, always say, and with my kids, too, I teach them to say thank you. And to this day, they say thank you to me and Daddy. She goes, oh, anything I give him, oh, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. And you teach him that. But my career is important to me also. So, and I try to explain to my kids, you know, my daughter who's 15 and my 11-year-old, I say, Mommy's doing this for you guys. You know, I'm here. And so we do talk, and I make time for them too. It's very important to make time for your kids. And so, you know, as soon as I get home, my daughters follow me in my closet, and I'm like, let me breathe, you know? And they're like, this girl did this, and this boy did this, and I like this boy, and and my other daughter, I'm like, give me a moment, you know? But then I make sure that every day I say, how are you doing, Kelsey? How are you doing, Chloe? What went on in school today? You need to ask them that. Because, and then, you know, you're not, I don't want to be, you know, that mom that, okay, yeah, she worked hard and everything, but she never paid attention to me. So I make sure, I mean, I went out last night, but I made sure, you know, I called my kids and say, hey, Mommy's out, but I'm here. Do you have anything? Anything happened in school? I do that before I go out to an event or something, you know. It's very important. So I balance my life that way, but family is first for me.
I was going to ask you when you talked on the cultural part, because a lot of us have challenges overcoming how we think people perceive us, right? So we have things that we consider flaws, and then we project that on other people, and we say, this is how people perceive me because when you basically dictate it, right?
Yeah.
So, Abby, I know for you coming from a Latina background and being in these places, we talked about this on the podcast, and powerful photo shoots. And I wanted you to kind of share that story because I think a lot of people in this room will be able to relate to that. Because sometimes we shrink.
The fear.
Did y'all hear the episode on shrinking? Sometimes we shrink because of how we think people perceive us. Right. So how were you able to get the confidence to be able to, you know, as a Latina woman, say, I'm here and I'm the boss, even though my cultural background has taught me to be a lot more submissive.
So my dad, my mom always taught us, in a Puerto Rican family, always look down, the superiors, And so I was timid, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm not good enough, And working in my industry, I work with a lot of different people, and I was afraid. I had fear, and fear. You don't know what fear is about. Fear is not knowing, really. And so I thought the other person was better than I was. Coming, a Latina, the only Latina in a photo shoot. And so I always thought that they were better than me. And so I was like, and I would leave the photo shoot really depressed and it's interesting because when you go home, when I used to go home when I wasn't married at that time, when I was with my parents, it was a different kind of environment. The typical Puerto Rican family, the rice and beans and the talking and, and though you have a career, they don't treat you that way. They don't see you as who my parents, and to this day, my mom doesn't know, what do you do, What do you do? In the Latino culture, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, you're not like, what are you? You know what I mean? Or if you don't have that brand new car, in the garage, you have nothing. Wow. That's the mentality. So I'm like, no. So I would leave the shoots really, really depressed, and I'm like, I can't live like this because I'm not happy, And there were times I'm like, I can't do this. So I started doing research on the backgrounds of, when I would have a shoot, I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna check out this makeup artist. I'm gonna check out this, stylist, where they've been. And I'm like, you know what? They're not different than I am. Mm-hmm. And I've seen their work, and I said, my work is just as good as their work, And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna speak up, and I'm gonna see how this goes. I'm like, I'm gonna speak up. And it's hard because, in the industry, I do a lot of PR and with the celebrities, and they're tough, And so I'm like, I'm going to push back, and I'm going to be tough, too. So I was like, oh, God, either I'm going to get fired one day, or this is not going to go well, or the celebrity's going to walk out. So, and I fear that, but like, you know what? The hell with it. And so I was like, no, I do not want that. I want her in this outfit, And put my foot down, and then they backed up. I'm like, that kind of worked, That worked. So then I got cocky, I'm like, well, okay. No, I don't want that shot. Can we do another shot? Can you just move her to the side, maybe her hair back, And I just got cocky after. I'm like, okay, calm it down, Abby. Calm it down. But, I felt good. And when I left the shoot, I'm like, damn, I got the shot that I wanted. I got it. So I kind of left the mentality of my, of course, you learn from your parents, and you take it with you, and you take it, how can I say, you take it in, but you don't, you don't have to use it all the way they use it. You can interpret it a different way. I can say interpret it a different way. So that's what I did, and I was like, okay, I appreciate what my parents taught me, but I'm looking at the person in their eyes, because that's confident. So I'm going to be confident. And so since, and I started doing that, and I started looking at the person in the eye, and I'm like, wow, this is not bad. And it was like, and it felt like a competition. Yeah. You stare, and some people are staring, I'm like staring. So, yeah, and stare, okay, when is she gonna look back? No, I'm gonna wait till she looks away, so now I'll look away. So it was like, and it was this mental, I thought I was screwed up in the head. I was like, but no, it's actually working. So, yeah, that's the way I work.
No, that's being very strategic.
That's a strategic, yeah. And being confident, and it feels great. It really does. And I guess also, like you said, the experience over the years, you get that, from the 10 years. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I feel confident, and I'm having fun. Yeah. That's the thing. Once you hit that, it's so important. Once you accept, and you accept yourself, and you're confident, then forget it. You can do anything. The sky's the limit, and it's so much fun to ride. So, yeah, that's what I give to you girls.
I love that.
Yeah.
We talk living richer, right? But you got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And Tiffany, you have how many followers on Facebook right now?
Jabril, how many followers? This is my marketing guy. Like, Jabril, how many followers? We have 120,000.
Okay, so we'll say it's over 100. It's over 100. It's over 100. It's over 100,000.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know Tiffany Budgetnista, please make sure you guys check her out because she is the bomb.
Yes,
Like I'm looking like, hey girl. And she's been able to build this incredible business as an entrepreneur. You know, just incredible. But you had to start somewhere.
Yes.
And you talked about starting and how you started, which you would post financial tips. Can you talk about that a little bit, just your start?
So the very first thing I started to do, one, was volunteering. A lot of people will tell you, a lot of business coaches will tell you that you shouldn't give your stuff away for free, you know? And to a certain degree, there are some things, this is true. But in the beginning, when you're first growing and you're first even developing your own skill set, there's no better place to practice than through volunteering. Because one, it builds you good karma, it's good to give, right? Two, you get to practice your craft. I mean, even Chris Rock will go back to like a local, one of these local like comedy places in New York, really small clubs, to practice his routine before he puts it on HBO, right? And then three, this was kind of unintended, but as I was volunteering, no one says no to free labor, right?
Yeah.
So what that meant was companies that would tell me no if I wanted to get paid would tell me, yeah, oh yeah, you want to come on in? And then I got to network, because now you're volunteering and you're serving food with the homeless next to the COO of Verizon.
Absolutely.
And then so I didn't realize, but I was making these connections that I was able to turn into business later. So that was how I first started, was to volunteer and hone my skills. And then I started to use social media in a just very basic way. It was another thing. Everything I do is based upon giving and being of service. That's what really being a teacher is all about, right? And so on Facebook, I thought, well, how do I get people to kind of like know what it is that I'm doing? So literally every day for about 2 years, I would post a tip of the day. And it was just like, sometimes the tip was as simple as drink water, it's cheaper. Right? And then like, 'cause you know, you run out after 365 tips, you're like, I don't know, girl. Walk. Save money on that buffet, you know? But the first year, nobody cared.
How many likes did you get?
Like 1, 2, if that. Nobody cared for the first like 6 months to a year, honestly. But that's, when those things happen, that is meant to separate those who are going to have and those who will not. You know? Because everyone does not deserve the dream that they are going after. Because if you are not willing to put in the work, then it is not for you.
Yeah.
Because if you think this is hard, what you think is gonna happen when you get there? Like the work to get there is nothing compared to the work to stay there.
Come on.
So that's what, so if I gave up, so some people, you know, they're like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. No, 6 months of no feedback. Can you handle that? You know? And so for 6 months to a year, nobody cared. And then like one day, oh, you know, Tiffany, I come to your page every day to read your tips. I was like, what? You do? And slowly but surely, right?
Wow.
And then slowly but surely, people started to hit me up and say, well, how much do you cost to sit down for one-on-one? And can you come speak at my school? From a tip of the day on free Facebook. Wow. Right? And so it's just as simple of consistently giving a resource to those people that you want to serve consistently, not giving up after 1 week it doesn't work, not giving up after 6 months, not even giving up after a year. Like, it takes a lot of work to get there, and it's supposed to be hard. I think that we are spoiled in this country, thinking that hard means you're doing something wrong.
I love this amen corner with Mimi.
Yeah, Mimi knows, right? She has grown this incredible following in this short period of time, with well over 500,000 women on this platform, 600,000 this platform. Because you know how it started? Just daily and regularly and consistently giving of yourself, and sometimes with no feedback. You know, and like I said, it's supposed to be hard, and here's why: because 10,000 people want it, 5,000 are willing to get up early. So guess the other 5,000 fall off. Of that 5,000 that are willing to get up early, 2,500 are willing to stay late. Of that 2,500 willing to stay late, 1,000 are willing to put some money up. Of that 1,000 willing to put some money up, 500 are willing to sell their car. Of that 500, 200 are willing to move back home to save money for their business. Of that 200, 100 are willing to, like, I don't know, like, right? Exactly. Like, not eat out, not buy any clothes. But that's why when you get to the top, hardly anyone is there. because most people are not willing to do the work required. So you want to be Oprah, but you don't got Oprah working you. You think Oprah's chilling? If you believe that, you're wrong. Like, you can't get to Oprah level without Oprah sickening work ethic. And if you don't have that in you, and that's okay, because not everybody's built to put in all that work, but you have to acknowledge you might not be worthy of your dream just yet, because if you are not willing to put in the work, then you are not deserving of that goal and dream. You can't be Oprah thinking you're going to chill on the couch watching Real Housewives 24. Watching For real. It takes a lot. I brought my computer with me, so that way I can listen and get to my emails. Right? I woke up early, 4 o'clock this morning. I'll probably go to bed 2 o'clock tonight after I make lunch or dinner or whatever for Superman. I'm like, what you want? I'm gonna make it for now so you can eat it for tomorrow. You know, you good? Laundry. Because that's what it looks like. You know, and I just wish more people would show what success. I can only imagine what it took to put this together. I mean, y'all look cute up here. But I know the inside is like, right? It looks cute.
Yeah, it is good. They're gonna test it, yeah.
But you know what I want to say, what's really powerful about what you said, Tiffany, for the first 6 months to a year, when no one was liking, or maybe one person was liking, you didn't measure your success by what other people were doing, whether or not they liked it or not. So you stopped because you weren't successful. You had an internal measure that said, my success is measured by my commitment to my dream. It's very different measures of success, and I think it's better for us to take on her measure, the measure that says that regardless of whether anyone says yes or cheers me on or listens to a podcast or signs up for the challenge or buys a Latina magazine or comes to VIP protocol workshop, whatever it is, my measure says that because I committed to it, I'm successful.
Yeah.
That's how I measure my success. And if I keep committing, other people will start buying into it. So that is really fantastic. I love that. I need to ask you guys a very important question because friends tend not to talk about money. And do you guys talk about money with your friends? Do you? Some of you do. Raise your hand if you do.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good room. Y'all are great girlfriends for real. We find, Brandis and I have found in our conversations and some of the conversations we have and some of the learnings that we've had through this podcast that women are afraid to share their situations, their money situations with their friends. So how do you share friendship and finance in a way that allows for you to build individually, collaboratively, talk about your legacy planning, you know, say I can't go on that vacation because I'm putting aside insurance money for my kids. I'm getting a life insurance policy or I'm getting my own policy. How do you do that? So do you guys have a way that you integrate, Tiffany? I know you talk about this a lot, but Ebby, in your formula for your friendships, do you integrate financial conversation? And
Oh yeah, I do. I have to.
Awesome.
You know, it's always good to share. Plus, first of all, you have to trust your friend. You know, you have to have a good
you
friend.
have trustworthy friends, and then trust.
It depends what kind of friend. So, yeah, I totally do because they can put stuff in perspective that I can't see, and they have an experience that I didn't have the experience. So, like my friend Jennifer, you know, she has her blog, and I want to do my blog, and I don't know how, and I don't, you know, should I hire someone? Do I have the money? I pay mortgage. I have 2 kids in Catholic school. What do I do? And she's like, you got to invest. Just don't buy those shoes, Abby, that you always want. You know, don't go shopping. You got to cut this. And so she gave me a great tip. Like, you know, one summer she saved money for 2 years. She didn't go on vacation, but she stayed vacation. You know, so that was a great tip. I'm like, okay. She goes, there's so many things in the city you can do, you know, with your kids, you know. So, and you go to the Bronx Zoo. There's so many things that you can do that you don't have to fly out anywhere. And that's where the expense. When you have 2 kids, and there's 4 of you, and they're not like babies, and you pay full price. Yes. That's where it hurts. So yeah, so she did it for 2 years, and she ended up buying a big house, and you know, so that was like, wow, just having a conversation with her and being open and say, okay, this is my situation. And she'll say, oh, you know, I went through that. This is what you should do. So I think I like to share, you know, and it depends on the person, depends on your friend, to share these issues that you have and you know, and get an experience from her, what she did, or, you know, that tip she gave me, you know, 2 years, don't go on vacation. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but yeah. 2 years and have something, do something fun with your kids. It doesn't always have to go, And you think about it, when you go on vacation, like last time I went to Puerto Rico, I spent a lot of money, went to Puerto Rico, and all we did is we went to the beach and back, beach and back. And I'm like, you know what, we could have done that on the shore. Like, think about it, Why don't you rent a hotel somewhere in Jersey, and then just pretend you're, somewhere far, and just go to the beach and come back. And that's what I was, think about it. We just spent the flight and everything for what, So you think, so yeah, I always share I always say everything. I let it all hang. That's who I am.
It's funny because so I met Ebby yesterday at the networking event, and so me, Ebby, Tico, Mimi, and Drina, my publicists, well, all publicists, which is funny, right? We all went out to dinner, right?
And
we had such a
we had good time.
And we talked about money.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it doesn't have to be your best friend, but just a circle of women that you trust and you know that you can just share with. And it was just great because we were sharing business tips, financial tips, and so it doesn't, to me, we have to make money normal to talk about.
Yes.
So I was fortunate, like we're in my household, we talked about money all the time. It was just my dad made it normal conversation. From like, oh, you want that? My dad was like the guy from Everybody Hates Chris. Right? Every time you flush that toilet unnecessarily, 25 cents. Right? And so I just remember like not being afraid to talk about money. And so I brought that to my friendships. And sometimes my friends would be like, oh, Tiffany. And I'm like, girl, what? But this is what you have to be careful of. You want to make sure, so there are 4 questions you should ask yourself before you spend any money. That's why, get your pen and paper.
Yeah.
Right, here's the question. Do I need it?
Where your stitches at?
I got the bracelets this time. So, and I have these at the back. And I have these at the back. I give them away for free. And these are the reminder bracelets, and the questions are on here. Do I need it? Do I love it? Do I like it? Do I want it? Need it, love it, like it, want it. So what's a need? Food, shelter, clothing, water. Stuff that you have to sustain life, right? Shoes, not to be cute, but to be comfy, right? So then what comes second? Your second priority is your loves. Needs come first, then comes loves. What are your loves? I would pick 2 things for the next 6 months that make your heart beat faster. Like whether it's travel, maybe you're a foodie, maybe it's your hair, whatever those 2 things are that really bring you true joy, right? Then everything else is a like or a want. So what that means, it doesn't mean that you can't eat out at McDonald's or get Starbucks or whatever, but what that means is every time you do, you have to acknowledge, every time I buy this Starbucks, that is $5 away or $10 away from my trip to Paris. So, because people would always tell me that was so cheap, that I was living less of a life, and I'm like, no, I live more of a life because I spend less on what I don't care about and more on what I do. My love is my business, the budget, and travel. So my friends used to go to brunch every Sunday, and they would call me and tease me and be like, Tiffany, we know you ain't going with your cheap self, right? And then one Sunday, my friend called me. She was like, I didn't want to be rude. We're going to brunch tomorrow. I know you're not going to go. I said, can I call you back? Because I'm in a hot air balloon in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the hot air balloon capital of the world. It's the hot air balloon capital of the world. It was on my bucket list. I saw a flight. I booked it, and I was out. And I said, so we're about to take off, but I'm going to holler at you later. Have fun at lunch.
On that note.
And because I told her, this is where my money goes for my love. Your love might be brunch, but don't live someone else's version of love. Because some of you are living someone else's version of their more. If that's not their more and you're putting your money toward it, then you're really living less of a life, not more of a life.
I love it. Well, girlfriends, hopefully you enjoyed the magnificent information that Ebby and Tiffany provided on Living Richer. I absolutely just loved this panel. I thought they were so honest and transparent, and I love how Tiffany talks about your more may not be my more, and you have to really stand up for what you believe in as far as your definition of living rich. So hopefully you're able to walk away from this creating a new definition on what living rich means to you and setting standards for 2017 that allow you to live richer.
Absolutely. And of course, we cannot close out without thanking our amazing husbands.
Yes.
So Rich Daniel, thank you, babe, for just, honestly, he's been working so hard and working so many hours. So thank you so much for doing what you have to do to support our family.
Oh, so sweet. Yes. Thank you, Kwaku, for being just such an amazing support and friend and everything I just could ever possibly want in a husband. I'm so grateful.
Yes, and to these children, Miss Sky, who is growing up and getting a little bit grown, but I'm so thankful for her. She's so cute.
Aw, Sam and Dilly, you know I love you, babies. I love you.
And to all of our aunts, cousins, our mom, our dad, our sisters, and our brothers, our nieces and our nephews, we just want to say thank you guys so much for your support. It means the world to us.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much to all of you great girlfriends for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter. Make sure you listen each week on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Republic, Podcast Bean, Blueberry, and every other podcasting service.
Absolutely. You can check us out on our social on Instagram,
The Great Girlfriends,
on Twitter,
_Great GFS,
on our Facebook.
The Great Girlfriends.
And make sure you're checking out our Facebook group. We're 13,500 women in that group. It's super active. We're waiting on you to join.
Make sure you post your questions online. You share with your friends. Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil.
I'm Brandis.
And we're signing off.
Bye, guys.
Peace.